Good evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese.
Present.
Councilor Fascio.
Present.
Councilman Waldron.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Present.
Councilman Crestis.
Present.
I would like to make a brief announcement that on September 9th, the Penn Hills Council held an executive session to discuss matters pursuant to the Sunshine Act.
Make it a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Carestas.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 19th council minutes.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Fascio.
Yes.
Councilman Waldron.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Councilman Crestis.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Minutes approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for item number 4, ratification of expenditures?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Fascio.
I'd like to make a motion that we ratify the expenditures report in the amount $2,758,319.96.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Waldron.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Councilman Crestis.
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Yes.
Councilor Fascio.
Yes.
July expenses approved.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the time for comment on non-agenda matters for individuals that signed up a week in advance to address council. And when I call your name, please come to the podium and speak closely and clearly into the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Greg Swachik. And as you know, there's a 3-minute rule, so please be mindful of that.
Greg Swachik, excuse me, 648 Gramick Lane. The sheet I'm passing around to you is dated June 4th, 2003. That's when the officer did a fine job in taking care of trespassing other than vehicular traffic. There's been a good results on that. It's considered solved. The part that isn't is the ones involving vehicles, so it would apply, the vehicle code would apply. All that's self-explanatory. I'm not going to spend any more time on it except to cite it as an example for the theme, why I wanted to try to encourage you to consider Councilman Carestis' first proposed ordinance, and then maybe a resolution, and then just maybe a policy change by the mayor to have more back and forth. I only have 3 minutes, Mayor, but the best way for me to try to get you to understand what my concern is, if you were a judge with a gavel and a robe, and you were presiding over a case, you would allow the called for due process, which would involve direct testimony under oath, cross-examination, witnesses, evidence, and evaluate that, and give it the time due until, nobody's objecting because of relevance or asked and answered. And then you have everything in the hopper to bake your cake. What I fear is that time and time again, and this is a prime example, things linger. The public, you want to foster a good relationship. You, as the leader of council, is in fact, or are in fact, the go-between, the head as mayor of the, to be the go-between between the public and our government and internal workings. Some of the things you say, that we have a fine department and all that, you know, the department is made up of Chris Blackwell and Meg Balsamico. That's our department. Zoning is Damien, who does a fine job. So it's not 10 people or 50 people in a giant company. That's who it is. So a lot of relied, when you first became mayor, you had no choice but to rely on our so-called professionals. And I know Meg has a Penn State engineering degree. She does a wonderful job. But I think sometimes you ought to realize that there are things that can be missed. There are questions that the public innocently have, not to moan, groan, gripe, look for something to complain about. But if there's a legitimacy to it, and as the manager said, we can't.
That is the end of the time allotment, Mr. Swaczek. Thank you.
Could I just complete my thought for one moment?
You can feel free to, we can talk afterwards again. This is time for public comment. That's the 3-minute public comment. That doesn't mean that you can't have access to us at any time. We have often have, every month we have a second meeting where there is back and forth. This is not the opportunity for a back and forth, but feel free, we can talk afterwards or at any time.
Okay, I tried to have access at Giant Eagle with the manager, and he sent a police officer to my home today. I wanted to comment on that.
Mr. Swaczek,
okay.
we can talk at any time. Giant Eagles.
You told me we could do that. I asked you, and you went into the back room and said that you will not talk to people who misquote you. I said, how did I misquote you?
Mr. Swaczek, you can talk anytime.
I will. 3 minutes next meeting.
You can have 3 minutes every meeting. For those of you who are new to our meetings, at this point in time, this is the section that is set aside for public comment. This is not the only opportunity that residents get a chance to speak with us. I think that anybody up here would be happy to speak with any of you. I don't speak for everybody, but I know that everybody up here is absolutely ready, willing, and able to speak with you. In fact, I just sent out my email address. We have telephone contact. You can come meet with us in person. Please don't ever think that you're limited to just 3 minutes here. Absolutely not. I'm sorry, you're limited to 3 minutes to communicate with us. You have unlimited access to us, essentially. However, at these formal voting meetings, as you'll see when you look at other places, that's pretty common to have a time frame. So please feel free to reach out in any manner that you want, and we can discuss whatever issues you have. You're never, ever limited just to this forum. May I get a motion for item 6A?
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sapp.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 6A, 2024-35, approving the substantial amendment to fiscal year 2019 Community Development Block Grant Program.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Any public comment? Any comment from council?
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
if we could just ask our business manager or even refer it over to Chris Blackwell, just to give clarification of this item number, please.
Chris, would you provide some clarification, please?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Basically, in 2019, 2020, we received CDBG funding, CDBG CV funding for COVID-related expenses with HUD. And we have a rental assistance program that's still underway, going well. The HUD increased the amount of things we could spend the money on to ventilation improvements, things like that. So we did a ventilation improvement project at the multipurpose center, 2025 Lincoln Road, and that is completed now. So we have funds left over, which we want to now use on it for additional funding. So we have estimates for a contract to improve the HVAC at the senior center And I know this, maybe my memo seemed a little confusing, but there's a downstairs kitchen and an upstairs kitchen. And the upstairs kitchen was basically unusable at times during this summer. So we're moving the money over so that we can handle that problem and try to assist the Phyllis at the senior center with that issue.
That's good. Thank you very much. It's always good when we have money left over that we can use it for other things. Thank you so much, Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. Any further comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Crestus?
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
Councilor Fascio?
Yes.
Councilman Waldron?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp?
Yes.
Resolution 35 approved.
May I get a motion for item 6B?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Waldron.
I make a motion that we vote on Resolution 6B, 2024-36, adopting the 2025 to 2029 Capital Improvement Program.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese?
Yes.
Councilor Fascio?
Yes.
Councilman Waldron?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp?
Yes.
Councilman Crestus?
Yes.
Resolution 36 approved.
May I get a motion for item 6C, please?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Crestus.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 6C, 2024-37, granting conditional use approval at 200 Penn School Drive for the construction of a 48-unit apartment building.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public?
Bill March, 1335 Maple Avenue. I just request any contract that you make to build this building, any lighting, exterior lighting be shielded. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public?
Yes, my name's John Fulton. I'm an owner of 6033 Duane Drive, which is property that's adjacent to the property that is being proposed for the Senior Citizen Center. During the Planning Commission meeting last month, we raised a concern regarding a right-of-way, which was a path that the students used to take from Duane Drive to the school, and that right-of-way would not be part of the property that was going to be turned over for the development, and that it would be closed off so that no future or any type of vehicle transportation could be used for that right-of-way to connect Duane Drive with the property that is being proposed for the Senior Citizen Center. And there was at that meeting, the developer committed to find out who owned that right-of-way and what rights that the owners of that right-of-way would have. And I hope that gets discussed here before this conditional approval is approved by council tonight.
Mr. Blackwell, can you address that?
Yes, I certainly can.
Thank you.
There's a paper street to the rear of this property that goes on to Duane Drive, and I think our solicitor would actually tell you that that property would revert to the adjacent property owners, and in fact isn't owned by it's a paper street. So there was some discussion in the memo about maybe the whole development, the whole subdivision having ownership, but I believe the solicitor would tell you that in fact it reverts to the adjacent property owners. I also want to say at this time, the conditional use approval is really, they've provided extensive in your packet, right? Extensive amount of information. At this point, what they're really asking is, can they convert this former school to senior citizen housing? That's the question. So a lot of those details were involved at the Planning Commission stage, but they're really going to be fully addressed at the Planning Commission for site plan. Really what you're looking at tonight is, do we think it's a good idea, Mayor and Council, to convert this former vacant school to to senior citizen housing, and that's permitted in our zoning ordinance as a conversion of a school to senior housing. But to my understanding, they're researching, there's no easements, there's no rights of way, there's nothing on the books that says that the property owner of 200 Penn School Drive has any access or any use of that right of way. That's to my knowledge, but I believe that those details will be finalized in the future as we go forward.
So it sounds like you're saying that's not even an issue tonight. All we're talking about is whether or not we would be willing to convert a school into apartments, correct?
That's correct. They've given you a whole lot of information, maybe more than's even necessary, which is helpful, you know. But I think that's really we're saying is a zoning issue, is the conditional use, you know, and they're asking for one modification. So it meets, as far as a conditional use, it meets our entire zoning ordinance as far as they're going to sprinkle the building, you know, all the things that are required for senior citizen housing. And the one modification is they've asked for an increase in density. Typically, these buildings are 48, 50, 52, the ones that we've seen units. I think it's economics of how to build these buildings and how many people can house in it. If you remember, Emerald Hills was 16 acres. So they met the density, that wasn't an issue. This is a smaller site, but we still believe, the planning department believes, and the planning commission, that this is a good location for this project.
Does that make sense? Is that satisfactory?
Well, I understand what you're saying, okay, but it still doesn't show that we would like to see some proof, which is what we were told at the planning commission meeting, that we would get substantial proof that that property is not part of the property that's going to be converted over to the Senior Citizen Center, and that there is no right-of-way or easement that could be from Dwayne Drive to that property. And that's what our understanding was, that the developer had taken that on to resolve that issue, and we have seen no information regarding that, other than what Mr. Blackwell just said, but we haven't seen that. We don't know that that's correct. There's no paperwork. I would like to see in writing, or I would like to have the conditional approval be contingent upon that property, that there's no easement, and that the developer has, or the owner has, no access to that right-of-way between the border of what was the school property and Dwayne Drive.
The applicants are in the audience, so maybe they could speak to that. But also, like I said before, like those details of the site plan, you know, if they come to us with a site plan that shows a road to Dwayne Drive, we would say, no, that's not something that's not acceptable. But the applicants are here, maybe they could speak to that.
Because essentially this is their hearing, correct? I mean, we're viewing it as that, correct? I mean, this being transcribed, is this portion not being transcribed?
Yes, this is being transcribed, that's correct.
Okay. Good evening. Are you prepared to respond to that?
My name's Andrew Haynes. I'm representing the developer. We did some title research on the property. We forwarded that to the planning staff, and what Chris said earlier is accurate. We do not have any ownership of that right-of-way. That right-of-way was established when the original subdivision was approved, and it was never officially adopted by the municipality. So there is a right-of-way there that legally, according to our council, is actually owned by the two adjoining property owners of the right-of-way. So we couldn't put a pathway in there because we don't own it. And we would be more than glad to provide in future meetings evidence of this information.
So basically, you're saying that the property owners on either side of that right-of-way are the owners of the right-of-way?
Legally, they have the rights to that right-of-way, if I'm correct. Maybe the council can...
Well, that right-of-way was used as a public access.
Yeah.
Since 1950.
It's not actually a right-of-way. It was just the school was there.
Yep.
So then they students used it. It was acceptable.
That's
as
what
that
I'm
use.
thinking.
Right.
That's the issue that I'm trying to resolve. That is there actually a right-of-way?
No, it was a paper
And
street that
if
was
so,
never
who
developed.
owns that piece of property?
It's a
Because
paper,
it's
it's a
not on
paper
the-
street that was never adopted by the municipality. So legally, under real estate law, the two adjoining property owners have the right to that property. We do not. We do not own it. It's not part of the deed or the property description.
And it doesn't jump on their deed, like they would have to go get a subdivision and make it part of their property and pay taxes on it.
Right.
So it stays, the map stays the same, but if they wanted to come in, say, to the planning department and apply for a building permit to put in a swimming pool, they would have to now correct their survey. But as we're telling you right now, it was never a right-of-way or an easement, it was a paper street that was never developed, and because we didn't do anything for 21 years, and have no intent to do anything, reverts back to the adjacent property owners.
I understand that, but that doesn't prevent in the future the senior citizen center that's being proposed to be able to come in, gain title to that right away, and then put a street there so that they would have access to their property from D. Wayne Drive.
We would have to buy the property from those two adjoining property owners. If we were to, and we have no plans on doing that. I said that multiple times at the meeting.
I understand you don't
We have
have
no
a-
plans on making that, because we don't own it. And we have no plans to purchase it from them.
I understand. So if you've done that research, would it be possible for the residents there to get a legal opinion saying exactly what you're saying? That there is no, that there is no right-of-way, and
It would be
real
part of the
estate
planning,
law?
the land development process, where we would show the plans, and we have no plans on putting access road there. So if we show it on the plans as our road, then we'll be more than glad to provide you legal description, but we have no plans on doing that.
Chris, couldn't that be
But
put in
that
as
doesn't mean
as
that
an
later
extra
on you might
condition?
try to get access.
No, I can't get access. You can't put an access to a property if you don't own the property.
Excuse me, sir, I'm
please.
not disputing your word.
Excuse
I'm
me,
just want
sir,
to see
excuse me
something
for
in
one
writing.
moment. Excuse me for one moment. Right now, this is a hearing, so I'm going to ask you to please take turns. You get to say everything you want during this hearing, but right now, there's a reporter right there taking all of this down. She can't take both of you, so if we could just do one at a time. Maybe if you could let him finish his sentence, and when he's done, then please feel free to speak, but we have to let her get this down. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question real quick, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Sure.
Chris, if the issue is whether or not that access road would be used to the senior citizen center, the proposed, that's what I'm hearing, could that be included as an extra condition of their approval, that they will not utilize that property as an access road?
Yes, that could be done. That's
That's what I asked for a few minutes ago, to get a conditional approval that by law, they cannot use it. And I would also like to make sure to see who the actual real owners of that property would be.
The actual real owners, the law with regard to paper streets in Pennsylvania is very clear. So when a street is laid out on a public plat and then dedicated to a municipality, and 21 years goes by and that street is never opened by the municipality, then the public and the municipality loses any right that they may have had in that public street, that paper alley, and it reverts to the property owners on either side to the center line. So the property owners on either side of that paper street own that paper street to the center line. Now, there's one caveat to that. If that paper street is in a recorded subdivision, the members, the people residing in that recorded subdivision retain a private right of ingress and egress over that paper alley.
Okay, and that's fine, I'm glad to hear that. Is there a way that we can get that in writing?
I'm going to ask right now,
It's in writing, sorry, Mayor.
yeah, sure. I was going to ask our solicitor if, right here tonight, can we, as we vote on this, do we have the ability to be specific right now so we can vote on this?
We can absolutely add as a condition that road, that paper alley will never be used as an access road to this development.
Mayor,
Yes, Counselor Fascio.
I'd like to make a motion that we modify this resolution to include exactly what he just said.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second the motion.
And Chris, you're okay with that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that
We're
there's no
perfectly fine
intent to
with
use
it.
it,
Can you
and
accept
the
that
applicant is
condition?
here.
Absolutely, 100,000%.
Right.
No
And there's
problem.
no issues as far as public, like you could say, oh, emergency access or public safety. I don't think there's been any discussion of that. The fire marshal, it's if this did not exist and there was a house sitting there, this development could go forth.
Okay, great.
So at this time procedurally, do we vote on that now?
It's still open for public comment. I see Mr. Swetchik was waiting in line.
Okay, please come forward. Sir, were you through?
Okay. Could you give us, cite the law that you just mentioned?
If you give me your email address after the meeting, I will send that law to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Swatchik, 648 Gramick Lane. I also attended the Planning Commission meeting that he's referring to. And I had an occasion with the property development on Rodi Road across from the Sunoco, where there were one old home was bought with 2 flanking apartments being added on. I made the drawings for the zoning hearing board. During our meeting, the council lady, chair, I forget her name, she's a retired judge. She had the applicant go home, had enough time because he came up first, and get the deed to see the words written in the deed. What she emphasized was, in order to protect him, for people to get to and from his apartment ABC, they have to drive through U-Haul property. If you're familiar with Rodi at the Sunoco, there's a U-Haul across the street and a development. That's his. There is a law that deals with, I think you know, solicitor, the prescriptive easement. After so many years, even though the U-Haul owned that land, no centerline stuff, this is just owning the land. Since it was written in the deed that there is a perpetual easement to his property, he's okay. And that box was checked for her because he brought her the actual deed. He went home and came back and had enough time. So they did vote on it appropriately. So they saw that, the words. And Mayor, I just want to thank you for letting that go back and forth, okay? Early on in your administration and when you were running, you emphasized certain things that you read and wanted to refine the language a bit. The theme you're with, but it's just there's some loopholes. I so appreciate that. I just, honest to God, want to thank you for that. I think here we have a similar thing, because if that was used, no matter who owns it, if it's used for so many years and they say, well, the school did and the owners didn't complain, I think they have a prescriptive easement legal argument to make and say it's too late. You let it go on that long, and that's what the gentleman's worried about. We're all for the senior citizen thing. If I say I'm going to light a match in the room, is that okay? And I don't tell you I fill it with gasoline vapors first. It's a tangential, lateral, collateral damage type thing that they're trying to prevent. If legally they can make that argument, it doesn't matter what condition you put in. They're going to go to court. They're going to say, by prescriptive easement, this was used over the X amount of years. I think it's 21, Mr. Solicitor. You can check. Yeah, I see you nodding. Thank you for the record. Well, no, I learned to do that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Seeing, hearing, none. See, she doesn't know that. Again, the mayor is right on top of it to get this stuff in the record so a future review can bear out the truth and what we may have missed. So my concern is still their concern. Okay, I gave you an example of how it was done in the zoning hearing board by the chair, who was a retired county judge. And also, I'm concerned about if they, even though he said, I'm not saying it's wishy-washy language, we looked into sort of maybe like it, use exact words. Did you hire a bona fide title company to research the title and on their suable letterhead render a documentable position that we can all rely on and go forward instead of guesswork? That's what it seems like they want. That's, you know, to table it, for them to get that document, they're having no problem with it. You have no problem writing it in. Just get it, like Cerise, I forget her name, but that was the way to go. I think she gave us a fine example how to proceed.
Thank you so much.
I hope it's helpful. I'm not trying to frustrate the process. But, Mayor, I think you know how important it is to do things right.
Thank you so much. I do just want to point out a distinction for those of you who don't typically come to our meetings. What's happening here right now is different than regular public comment. Right now, we're in the middle of a hearing, and that's why we had the developer come up and we had the back and forth, and this is being transcribed right now. There's a transcript being made. So this, it looks different and it feels different because it is different. This is specifically a hearing that's occurring right now. Any further public comment? Any further comment from council?
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I just want to confirm that we are going to add this condition.
The condition was added in the motion, so yes.
Okay, what was the verbiage of that?
That the developer will not utilize, will never utilize that paper alley, and Chris can write it down when he sends out the conditions to the developer, or if it does get approved, but that paper alley would never be used as an access road by the proposed senior center.
Okay, and that's going to be added, right, Chris? Okay. Just for the record, since we are in a public hearing and we do have documentation, I wanted to make sure that you were clear with that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just one final comment. It may sound self-serving, but again, for those of you who aren't familiar, we have non-voting meetings and voting meetings. And at the voting meeting, we've done our homework ahead of time, and so there is not a lot of back and forth. However, I do think that this was a good example of someone, a resident came forward, brought something to our attention, and just to show you, look at the council members up here. Everybody was absolutely dedicated to hearing you out, and we're making that change because we genuinely, you know, we're your neighbors. We live here too, and we want the right thing. We want to do the right thing, and we want what's best for Penn Hills. So we thank you so much for coming forward and pointing that out to us, because although we do try to do, you know, the best research that we can, we really do rely on, you know, your input. So thank you so much for coming forward. Roll call, please.
Councilor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Crestus,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese.
Of course, as amended, yes.
Resolution 37 approved.
May I get a motion for item 6D, please?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Fascio.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-39, approving the police and non-police minimum municipal obligations for 2025.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council?
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor Sapp.
I would just like clarification. I know that we have some audience, some viewers who are not here in the audience this evening. So if we can just get clarification for the people who are watching us online, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. It'd be my pleasure to answer that. Every year, we're required to, at a public meeting, communicate to the governing body what our pension obligations are going to be for the following year for both the police and non-police pension funds. And that's in the packet here this evening. So next year, we have to fund both the police and non-police pension funds with about $3.4 million of municipal funds. But I think credited against that is then state aid that we do get. So it's probably in actuality a little bit less. The pension bills that we have for next year, they're about what they are for this year. So both of those really didn't go up, at least for next year, which is a good thing. But this is a major component to our budget because we're basically going to have a $3.5 million contribution to our pension funds, which is a lot of money. But we're required by law to bring this to a public setting to disclose that to the board what that bill is next year. So the good news is that it's not going up. But the bad news is we have it, but everybody has it. Everybody has an MO, minimum municipal obligation. It's not uncommon that you have it. Everyone generally does.
Municipal obligation.
Minimum
yes.
municipal obligation.
It's, especially for the police, sometimes it's significant.
Yeah, and just so everyone, and there is in the packet, you can see the majority of that is for the police pension fund because it has more members. It's a bigger fund. So.
Any further comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Crestis,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilor Fascio.
Yes.
Resolution 39 approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for item 6E?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Waldron.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 6E, 2024-40, authorizing a letter of intent to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic requesting technical assistance funding for staffing and retention solutions in water pollution control.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council?
Yes. Mayor, I would appreciate if the manager could
Sure.
explain a little bit about this one.
Sure. As you know, we have a full-time dedicated staff of employees that operate two pumps. We have 12 pump stations. We have about 3 plants. And so we go around the clock trying to staff an operation that processes about 25% of the total flows that are in Penn Hills. But we have a problem, as do many municipalities, with attracting people into that field. Our director has done a wonderful job talking to our neighbors, looking for solutions. But like many industries right now, the wastewater industry is one that has a lot of challenges to attracting people into that field. Then once they come to that field, they have to pass a certification. And we're experiencing a lot of challenges with that. So because of that, we are asking, hopefully, we get a grant and the state would assign a consultant to help us with looking at options, whatever they may be. It might be potentially looking at a way to do something creative using existing resources, perhaps with our Public Works Department. It might be something maybe perhaps a regional answer. But as an organization, we recognize that we are having a systemic problem with attracting people to staff what we do and then retain them. So this isn't something that's new. It's ongoing. Our director has, every budget season we go through, we discuss these things. And I think at this point, it's an effort to try to get some, I don't want to say outside the bun advice because we've done that too, but it's a recognition that it warrants really, I think, perhaps hopefully a consultant to help us look at what we're doing, maybe look at resources, maybe we could do something different to alleviate the pressure that our folks are under because they're working a lot more hours there in comparison to what they've done in prior years because of the staffing problem that we have. So hopefully we are able to identify some answers that are workable. But again, there's no guarantee that we're going to get this funding. But because of how important it is, I'm hoping perhaps that our state legislator and maybe our state senator will maybe expedite it, perhaps, because it is a problem. It's a challenge that we have.
Thank you.
Any further comment from council? I would like to, our director is here tonight, and I do want to recognize you, that you have done a great job. Truly, you go above and beyond. We recognize that. Earlier tonight, one of the residents mentioned that the number of professionals we have, but we have a full professional staff, administrative staff here. And honestly, thank you so much for what you do. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Crestis,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron.
Yes.
Resolution 40 approved.
Thank you. May I get a motion for item 6F?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Carestas.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-41, awarding Old William Penn Highway landslide remediation test drilling to Test Boring Services, Inc. in the amount of $17,795.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Any comment from the public?
Just quickly, Mayor, Greg Swatchik, 648 Gramick Lane. Drill, baby, drill. I am so happy this is finally being fixed. I mean, cars have flipped over here. And, you know, we put up a sign to slow down. Okay, so if we ever get sued, we can say, we told you just go so many miles an hour. Going that fast, physics wouldn't flip your car over. So we could make the argument you brought it upon yourself. I don't think stop signs are necessary, but if it deemed appropriate to prevent a lawsuit, I think a stop sign in the interim would be appropriate. But as I said, we didn't have to go that far. I'm just elated. I think this is something, it's a no-brainer. We all can agree on it. It's overdue. And this company is on the map, and I think it's a fair price to do these 6 holes. So Godspeed in the completion of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public? Any comment from council? Roll call, please.
Councilman Crestis,
Yes.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes, drill, baby, drill.
Councilor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp.
Yes.
Resolution 41 approved.
May I get a motion for item number 7?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Fascio.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of ordinance 2024-2704, approving no parking on Hershey Road within 20 feet of both sides of Duquesne Light Facility.
I think you mean 200 feet.
Yes, that's
Okay. Thank you.
definitely what I meant.
May I get a second, please?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Any comment from the public? Any comment from council? I just want to point out that whenever these items come up, please know that a lot of work is being done prior to these ordinances. So this has been researched, and you know, they've looked into the public safety of this. So it's not as if it just gets thrown on here lightly. Roll call, please.
Mayor Calabrese,
Yes.
Councilor Fascio,
Yes.
Councilman Waldron,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sapp,
Yes.
Councilman Crestis.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024 approved.
Thank you. May I get a
I'm sorry, 2704 of 2024.
Thank you. May I get a motion for item number 8? Oh, I'm sorry. This is just an introduction, okay.
The next, under the introduction of ordinances this evening is a recommendation from the Traffic Safety Committee to make Dogwood Drive, it's a cul-de-sac, to make that no parking in order for emergency vehicles to be able to turn around in the turnaround. But that isn't up for a vote tonight. It's being introduced tonight, so presumably it would be on the agenda for approval next month.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
may I make a comment to item 8 with the introduction under the new ordinance? So I just want to make sure we address how will that affect the visitors, extra family vehicles? How will that affect that parking? So I'd like to have a report back on that.
I could ask the Traffic Safety Committee to do that. I think it's going to affect them in the sense that if this ordinance is approved, they're not allowed to park there at all. Because the issue being that a fire truck, and again, I'm relaying this based on what I was told, that the issue is that emergency vehicles can't do the turn if there's cars parked there. That's the issue. So it would definitely affect people that are having extra vehicles in terms of where they're going to park.
Or even guests?
It would affect them, absolutely. It would affect anybody that parks there or wants to.
Okay, I haven't gone to Dogwood to do my own assessment. Do we have a drawing?
I don't have the drawing. What I have is the memo from the Traffic Safety Committee, and I could it's very brief. I could read it, and the public can hear it. On August 22nd, the committee received a request for no parking, stating concerns for emergency vehicles, DPW, and Republic Service not being able to service that cul-de-sac due to limited space for vehicles to turn around. And so that's what's prompting it. Now, having said that, if it's no parking, if it's no parking, it's no parking. That's what it means. It doesn't say no parking only during certain times. So presumably, if it's approved, there is no parking in the circle.
That's always a big concern of mine, when people have birthday parties or, grandparents come over and there's no parking and, there are grandparents who are older, or even handicapped, and so how far would they have to walk to get to that property, So again, I haven't done my own assessment, but it is a concern.
Manager, do you know who made the request?
I believe it came from emergency services, although that's not stated. When you read the memo, it sounds like it came from emergency services and DPW, but I would have to, the nature of it sounds like it came from within, not from without.
Okay.
And, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
When an ordinance like this is proposed, are the residents of the street notified of the proposed audit?
They have sometimes in the past, but not always. It's not in terms of it being part of the charter to do that. It's not the notice.
It's not required.
It's not required. The notice is the advertisement. Although in certain cases we have reached out to residents about certain parking situations, but then we find ourselves at an impasse when it's based on public safety. If that's the reasoning, what are we going to find out that's going to change that? That's the issue with it. If something is before us that is based on public safety and emergency vehicles being able to service the road and the waste trucks as well, there's very little that you might get back from the public input that would change that. And that's, I think, part of the challenge of it, that it's obviously going to have an impact.
And I think part of the assessment is to see the length of their driveways, because it doesn't mean they can't have visitors. It just means when you're there, you have to use the driveway.
Yes, and so that's important there. Yes, you're absolutely right. So what is the length of the driveways? I just think that we just need those specs on it before. And I know that it's just before us today as an introduction, but it's just something certainly to think about, and maybe council can, go up and make our own assessments, because even people who have visiting nurses and things of that nature. So I guess we really can't, speak on it because we don't know the length of those driveways. I'm not sure if anybody else on council has been up there, but it's definitely something to think about and to look at carefully.
And this is why, historically at least, with these types of ordinances, they're introduced first. That way it gives people more time to consider them. Plus, if we wanted to send a notice to the residents, we certainly could. I think we ought to.
Yes.
And so that also gives us the time to do that as well.
I'm sorry, you said we will be
I said
sending?
we certainly can, and we ought to, I think,
Okay,
in this
I
case.
think so.
Yeah, I think in this
Yes.
case we ought to, and that gives enough time. But before it would be held for a vote, Before that time, we would presumably have visited and presumably contacted the residents too.
Great, thank you.
And keep in mind, since this is just an introduction, and since we can go and take a look, this isn't the end-all here tonight. If something else comes, whenever when we go and take a look, if another issue comes up, that's why we do this, and we can talk to the officer who went up, and we can always bring it up and amend it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure, thank you. Now we move to council comments. Any comments, Deputy Mayor Sapp?
I have no comments this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, Councilor Fascio?
Yeah, very briefly. Just wanted to let folks know I was able to attend a meeting last week with PRT. I'm trying to remember to call it that, not Port Authority. They're launching a new program that will attempt to address access to and safety when using public transportation. They have a lot of great ideas. Penn Hills was the first place they came to inaugurate this new project. They seemed to want to hear what we had to say, and I'm hopeful that it's an opportunity to sort of combine some efforts here and maybe double the impact. Things that we've been thinking about. We talked about Rodi Road and the Graham Boulevard intersection as two possible areas to look at. Rodi obviously fits well into our plans. So looking forward to that. It's a work in progress, and as I said, they're just starting, so don't expect anything in the next 30 days. But also had a chance to spend some time at the Young Black Motivated Kings and Queens facility and the old Lincoln Park. I was there for a couple reasons, but I had the chance to observe their food pantry in action. And I mean, that place, every time I go, I'm so impressed by the energy and the commitment. And it's a lot of young people, which is wonderful to see. Really putting in some time and effort. So just can't say enough about what's going on over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carestas.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one quick comment. You may not know it, but September is Love Your Library Month. And outside of additional wonderful programming that our library is putting on, one of the large foundations in Allegheny County is doing match donations. So if anybody donates in the month of September, they will match the total. So if you've been thinking about donating to our library, it's the best month to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Waldron.
Yeah, couple things to announce. First, we recently launched a new mobile app for the community of Penn Hills. It's called the Penn Hills Passport. If you want to download it, all you have to do is get on your mobile phone, go to pennhillspassport.com, and that will redirect you to either the iOS store or the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. The app within it has a news feed, and that news feed kind of pulls together news from the Trib, from the municipality, from the Penn Hills CDC, from Rotary, from Joe McAndrew's office, and there's probably several others, the school district. So it just pulls in the news from all over the community. It has an entire events section with a calendar that shows you every day what's happening around the community, things you can do, places to go, events to go to. It has a shop local section, which is a directory of all the many different businesses we have in Penn Hills, and it also has a community directory that features all of our resources, parks, nonprofits, and things you can get involved in. So it's a great app. It was funded by the municipality through the Penn Hills CDC, and it's a great resource. So I urge you all to download it. The other thing I have is Autumn in the Hills is coming up on October 5th. It is being put on by the Rotary and the Penn Hills CDC. It's going to feature live music, food, drinks, games, crafts, and many vendors. And that's going to be at Rosedale Fire Department Memorial Park, and that's on Verona Road. So it should be a really fun day, so I hope to see everybody come out. And last, speaking of the library, I'm just wondering when we can expect some library board appointments.
I haven't received the letters of interest.
Okay.
So Rosedale Fire Department, we just had the Rosedale Festival. When you think about this, I mean, the fire department just celebrated 100 years, and we just came off of 99 years with the Rosedale Festival. That is truly astounding when you think about that. That's really historic, and it just blows my mind to think that we've had this facility here for 99 years. Always a great time. You know, Penn Hills is so huge, but we have that small neighborhood feeling. You go to the festival and you see your own neighbors. I was with Councilor Fascio at the PRT meeting, and it's another example of how we work together. We don't just, we're not an island, right? We work with federal, state, county, and local officials. Our state representative, Joe McAndrew, attended that meeting with us. He could have been anywhere else, but he came here to the municipal building to work with us on that. We're very happy to see the safety issues, and we're constantly trying to improve. So you take a look at Rhode Island Road, for example, and Frankstown Road, and so many other of our roads. I know it's an inconvenience while it's happening, but it's wonderful how everything's, you know, we're moving along with these improvements. Duquesne Light has continued. We're getting smart street lights. They started on Road I, moved out to either direction in Frankstown. That's a 5-year project. Working with PRT, we will have, to get to the bus stop, it'll be safer and accessible. We had a meeing with the, there's a contract that's coming up, the what's referred to as the animal control contract. Last week we had our first meeting with individuals in a task force. We have 20 more people who have signed up to be on the task force. Just, what a weekend. The all-class high school, Penn Hills High School reunion was this past weekend. Wow, very, very well attended. You know, people have come from all over the country, literally all over the world, to come back here. And we still have our local people who still live here. We had the community garden, the Penn Hills Community Garden fundraiser dinner this past weekend. I could not attend that. I had like 6 events, and I was actually at my own reunion at that time. But, you know, I think these are things that we have to think about because how lucky we are to live in Penn Hills. We have a fabulous volunteer base. We work with the other levels of government. We have a neighborhood feel, even though we have close to 30 neighborhoods and we are the largest suburb. It's not unusual at all to attend any one of these events and see your neighbor there. And I'm just grateful that we live in a place like this, and we have even people on council like this who, even if we ever disagree on any policy, we all have the same goal in mind. Thank you so much for attending our meeting, and we hope to see you next month. Have a good evening, and this meeting's adjourned. We're going to do a quick executive session now. Joanne, remember we're going to do the quick executive session. Look at you and get everything answered.